Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, there is a city that should not exist, and the people who built it left behind no explanation, only stone. The island of Pohnpei sits in Micronesia, roughly halfway between Hawaii and the Philippines. It is remote, humid, and largely overlooked by the modern world. But off its eastern coast, partially submerged and slowly being reclaimed by the sea, lies something that has quietly unsettled archaeologists for over a century. Nan Madol, a complex of nearly 100 artificial islands connected by a network of canals built entirely from interlocking basalt columns, each one weighing up to 50 tons. The site was first formally documented by Western scholars in 1826, when Irish trader James O'Connell described ruins of extraordinary scale. He assumed they were the remains of a forgotten empire. He was not wrong. Archaeological consensus now dates the construction of Nan Madol to somewhere between 1200 and 1500 C, built by the Sodler dynasty as a seat of political and spiritual power. The Sodler ruled for centuries from this place. They required their nobles to live within the complex, severing them from their home islands, a deliberate strategy of control through isolation. What no one has satisfactorily explained is how they built it. The nearest source of the basalt columns is over 30 kilometers away. There are no roads, there were no wheels, there was no metal. Modern engineers have attempted to calculate the logistics. Moving a single 50-ton column by raft across open ocean currents with only human labor sits at the boundary of what is considered physically possible. From the journal, entry undated, found folded inside the back cover of a surveyor's field book recovered from Pohnpei in 2019, the stones do not sit the way stones sit when men place them. They sit the way stones sit when they have always been there. That entry has no author, no date, no institutional affiliation. The field book it was found in belonged to a Portuguese surveyor named Henrique Valente, who visited Pohnpei in 1987 and died there. Valente's notes are otherwise routine: measurements, tide readings, sketches of canal widths. Then, on the final page, a single line in different handwriting: ask no one about the eastern wall after dark. From the journal, I measured the eastern retaining wall this morning. The columns are not stacked. They are interlocked, each one dependent on the next, like fingers pressed together. Remove one, and the logic of the entire structure changes. This observation is not fictional. Modern structural analysis confirms that Nan Madol's walls demonstrate a form of passive load distribution, a technique that requires precise sequencing during construction. The order of placement matters enormously. To achieve that sequencing without modern surveying tools, without written mathematics, the builders would have needed either an extraordinarily sophisticated oral engineering tradition or something we have not yet identified. From the journal, the local men who rowed me here would not come ashore. They stayed in the boat and looked at the water, not the walls. One of them told me, very quietly, that the stones remember who built them. This is consistent with documented oral tradition on Pohnpei. The Sodler dynasty is described in local histories as rulers of supernatural origin, descended from twin sorcerers named Olisipa and Olosopa, who arrived by canoe from a place called Katao. Katao does not appear on any map. It is described in oral accounts as a place to the southwest, but no island matching its description exists in that direction. It may be a metaphor, or it may be something that is no longer there. From the journal, I found a section of wall that does not appear in any survey I have seen. It runs perpendicular to the main complex, partially submerged. The basalt here is darker. The columns are larger. It feels older, though I cannot say why I feel that. No subsequent survey has documented this wall. Valente's sketch of it, a rough pencil drawing on the inside front cover of the field book, shows a structure extending approximately 40 meters into what is now open water. Nothing is there today. There are two possibilities. Either Valenti sketched something that has since collapsed or been submerged by shifting tidal patterns, or he sketched something that was never meant to be found and is no longer there for a different reason. From the journal, the darker basalt does not match the geological profile of the columns used elsewhere in the complex. I have seen this color of stone only once before, in a photograph of a site off the coast of Yap, 1,200 kilometers west of here. The island of Yap is known for something else entirely. Its massive stone discs, called ray, quarried hundreds of kilometers away and transported across open ocean. The Yapesies, like the builders of Nan Madol, moved enormous stones by sea. They also left no clear record of how. From the journal, I do not think Nan Madol was built in isolation. The engineering logic, the stone sourcing, the orientation of the canals, it suggests a tradition of knowledge that moved across water, not a local invention, a shared inheritance. No academic paper has formally proposed a connected Pacific engineering tradition, linking Nan Madol to sites on Yap or elsewhere. The distances are considered too vast, the cultures too distinct, and yet the stones share a color that has not been explained. From the journal, I spent the night inside the complex. I was not supposed to. The men refused to return for me before dawn. I do not blame them. By midnight, the sound of the water moving through the canals had changed. It was not louder, it was more deliberate. This detail, the sound of water changing at night within Nan Madol, appears in at least two other independent accounts. A German ethnographer in 1910 described the canals as producing, at certain tidal conditions, a low resonance he compared to breath. He did not elaborate. From the journal, I pressed my hand against the wall before I left. The stone was warm. Not from the sun. There had been no sun for 2 days. I held my hand there for a long time. I could not explain it. I still cannot. Thermal anomalies in stone structures are not unknown. Dense basalt retains heat differently than surrounding air, but Valenti's note specifies 2 overcast days, conditions that should have equalized any residual solar warmth. No thermal study of Nan Madol's walls has been published. From the journal, before I left the complex, I noticed something in the largest islet, the one they call Nandowas. At the center of the inner enclosure, the ground is not stone. It is earth, dark, almost black, and something has been growing there for a very long time. Nandawas is the largest and most restricted islet within Nan Madol. Archaeological records describe it as a mortuary complex, a place where the Sodler rulers were prepared for burial. Outsiders were historically forbidden from entering. Distractors as from the journal, the earth at the center of Nandawas is not soil that has accumulated over time. It has been placed there, deliberately. It is contained on all sides by a low ring of smaller basalt columns, a border, not a foundation. No excavation of this central area has been formally published. What lies beneath Nandowas's inner enclosure remains, officially, unknown. Access to the site is now restricted by the Pohnpeian government, partly for preservation, partly at the request of local communities. From the journal, I asked one of the older men on the island about what grows in that earth. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said the word for it in Pohnpeian. I wrote it down phonetically. Later, no one would translate it for me. The Pohnpeian language has several documented words with restricted use, terms tied to sacred contexts that are not shared with outsiders. This is not unusual in Pacific Island cultures. Some knowledge is deliberately preserved through silence. From the journal, the plant growing there, if it is a plant, does not have leaves. It has something closer to scales, flat, overlapping, a deep green that is almost black. I have never seen its kind anywhere else. I did not touch it. No botanical survey of Nandawas's interior has been published in peer-reviewed literature. The island's restricted status makes independent verification difficult. But Valente's description remains, for now, the only written account of what grows at its center. From the journal, I have been thinking about the orientation of the canals. They do not follow the most efficient path between islets. They curve, and the curves, when traced on a map, suggest a pattern, not a random one. Something deliberate, though I cannot yet say what. Archaeoastronomical studies of Nan Madol have noted a possible alignment between certain canal axes and the rising positions of specific stars during the construction period. The research remains preliminary. No consensus has formed. The question has not been closed. From the journal, on my last morning, I stood at the edge of the complex and looked back. The stones were catching the early light, each column individually, in sequence, as the sun moved. For a moment, the whole city appeared to be breathing. That image, a city appearing to breathe in morning light, is not metaphor. It is optics. As the sun rises over Nan Madol, the hexagonal columns catch light at different angles depending on their orientation. The effect is sequential, measurable. From the journal, I do not believe the effect is accidental. The columns are not uniform in their facing. Someone chose their orientation. Someone stood where I am standing and decided which face of each stone would greet the sun first. This is not a documented finding. No published study has formally analyzed the rotational orientation of individual basalt columns within Nan Madol's walls. But the columns are not identical in cross-section. They have distinct faces, and faces can be placed with intention. From the journal, I have been corresponding with a cartographer in Lisbon who specializes in pre-colonial Pacific navigation charts. I sent him a tracing of the canal curves. He wrote back one sentence: "These are not canals, they are a map." The cartographer is not named in the journal. No correspondence has been recovered. But the claim itself, that Nan Madol's canal network encodes navigational information, is not without precedent. Polynesian stick charts encode ocean swell patterns in curved forms remarkably similar to the canal layout. From the journal, if the canals are a map, they are a map of something very large. The scale, if the cartographer's interpretation is correct, would place the reference point far to the southwest, beyond any island I know of, beyond any island on record. Southwest of Pohnpei, in the direction the canals allegedly point, there is only open water, no seamount, no atoll, no geological feature that would suggest a landmass ever existed there within human memory. The ocean floor has been mapped. Nothing is there. From the journal, unless it is not a map of where something is, perhaps it is a map of where something was. The Pacific has swallowed islands before. Entire archipelagos have subsided over geological time. What if Katau is not myth? What if it simply sank? Geological subsidence in the Pacific is well documented. The Hawaiian archipelago, for instance, has produced a chain of sunken seamounts extending thousands of kilometers to the northwest. Islands do disappear. The ocean does not preserve what it takes. From the journal, final recovered entry, written in a noticeably different pressure of pen, as though the hand holding it had changed. The stones know where they came from. That is why they were placed facing that direction, not to greet the sun, to face home. Henrique Valente never left Pohnpei. The official record lists his cause of death as a cardiac event, on the 4th day after his final journal entry. He was 51 years old. No autopsy was performed. His field book was returned to Lisbon by the Pohnpeian authorities along with his surveying equipment. The cartographer he mentioned, the one who wrote these, are not canals. They are a map, has never been identified. The journal passed through 3 archival institutions before anyone read it carefully. It was catalogued as routine fieldwork. The final entry, written in different pen pressure, was noted only as a possible tremor in the writer's hand. Nan Madol itself has not changed. The stones remain. The canals still move water in ways that, at certain tidal hours, produce a sound one German ethnographer once compared to breath. No one has formally studied why. The restricted central earth of Nandawas has not been excavated. The plant valent described, flat-scaled, almost black, has not been catalogued. The Pohnpeian word he wrote down phonetically does not appear in any published lexicon. What is documented is this: a city built on 92 artificial islands, constructed from hundreds of thousands of tons of basalt, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, by a civilization that left no written record of how or why. What is not documented is equally precise: the submerged wall valent sketched, the thermal warmth of stones after 2 sunless days, the canal curves that one unnamed cartographer read as a map pointing toward open water. The Sodler rulers who built this place are gone. The dynasty ended violently, according to oral tradition, when a warrior named Isokalekal arrived from, again, the southwest and overthrew them. He too came from a place that cannot be found. Every thread in this story leads to the same direction. Every origin, every departure, every map, southwest, toward water, toward nothing, toward whatever the stones have been facing since the day they were placed. The journal's final entry ends mid-sentence, not with a period, not with a question. The ink simply stops, as though the hand that held the pen set it down quietly and turned to face the same direction as the stones.